All right. Good evening, everybody. For the record, it is Thursday, September 26th, 2019. It's 5:15 p.m., time for the regular meeting of the Wenatchee City Council. I've called the meeting to order. The first item of business is always the pledge to our flag. Councilmember Poyer, would you lead us?
Oh, yes, please stand.
You can do it twice in a row.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Poyer. This evening, we have all 7 council members present, so nice to have everybody here tonight. First item on our agenda are the consent items, which includes approval of this evening's agenda, the vouchers, and the minutes from the previous meeting.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve the agenda, the vouchers, and the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Huffaker, second by Councilmember Bailey to approve this evening's agenda, the vouchers, and the minutes from our previous meetings. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You okay? Okay, we'll work our way through it. The next item on our agenda would be citizens' comments. We'd ask anybody from the audience who wish to address the council on something that's not on today's agenda or not a public hearing item, to come up and address the council. We'd give you 3 minutes. We ask for your name and address for the record. So, show of hand, anybody? Yeah, you're sitting down. Yep, wave to your friends at home. You're on TV. Yeah.
Okay.
Name and address for the record.
Elisa King, 729 Riverside Drive in Wenatchee. So I have 2 concerns tonight. I've just moved into the area. I graduated from Eastmont High School in the early 80s, lived on the west side for nearly 30 years, and my husband and I resided in Marysville. He worked in downtown Seattle. I worked in the Seattle Times. We lived about 45 minutes north of Seattle, and we were excited that Seattle problems stayed down in Seattle until about 5 years ago. So for a couple of years, we were being inundated with people coming in, homeless, drunk and alcohol addicted, living in cars and RVs that were moving around, begging and panhandling, people spending extra time in parks and rivers and that sort of thing, and under bridges. And finally, the Marysville City Council intervened and decided that they were going to solve the problem. So my reason to be here today, and it's possible you guys have already started moving on this. I've only been here about 30 days. But I'm seeing some of that, the way it started in Marysville, here around town in Wenatchee. And so it's a concern to me. The Marysville City Council basically took 2 teams of 2 police officers and 1 social worker, 2 teams like that, and went individual by individual, and they offered housing for people that were truly just out of housing and needed options, or a one-way ticket to where they needed to go if they were out of a job and just needed to go home, or if they were alcohol or drug addicted, their choices were either rehab or jail. And it cleaned up the area extremely fast. And so, I don't know, perhaps you folks have already started that, and I'm just seeing the tail end of that rather than the beginning of it, and am overly sensitive because of the area that we came from. That's a possibility. In the process, our city council warned neighboring communities, which included Arlington to the north and Everett to the south, of what we were doing, because we didn't want the problem to just flee our community and go be a problem in someone else's community. And Arlington took the same steps, introducing that same concept of a social worker embedded with some police officers to go individual by individual to help folks out and help them get clean if they were drug or alcohol addicted. The people to the south of us, Everett, ignored the problem and are absolutely in a mess right now. They are in really, really bad shape. They've got people literally doing drugs on the streets, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. There are areas you cannot go at night because it's so violent and so bad. So that's my first concern. How am I doing for time? Because I don't want to burn up too much time.
12 seconds.
Okay.
Well, you can have one more item. You've got something else. You came this far.
Okay. So
Ignore the beep when it starts beeping.
Okay. Well, thank you. So when I lived here 30 years ago, there were some bad neighborhoods in South Wenatchee. And we all knew some of those streets, Boudry and some of those streets down in South Wenatchee. What I've noticed having returned to the area is that those bad neighborhoods have crept much further north. They're now south of the, just south of the area where I was raised in the church. I went to the Church of the Brethren Baptist, which is on the corner of Peachy and Okanagan. It's near Colonial Vista and Deaconess. And what's going on there is people are literally doing drugs in their parking lot. They've got needles in their window wells. They had to lock their garbage can. And the residences that were south of there that used to be some really nice little craftsman-style homes and that sort of thing are actually really run down and really in bad shape. In 1986, I worked up at Expo as a speaker at the United States Pavilion. 2 years before that, the city of Vancouver decided that they weren't going to tolerate any of those types of residences anymore. And so they started taxing, putting the most heaviest taxes on the properties that were in the worst shape. They also created a grant system so that low-income housing people that needed some help could actually get grants for paint and so forth. And they gave it about a 24-month timeline so that in 2 years' time they would be ready for the World's Fair to come to their city. And I'm not sure exactly what all of that is possible. And again, I'm very new to the area, so I'm willing to have you guys say, gosh, we're already in the middle of all of that. So that's possible. So that's my whole thing.
All right, so I'll just respond to a couple of them. We are doing something similar on the homeless stuff. Our police guys and a social worker from Catholic Family are out sort of regularly. They know mostly on a first name basis who all the folks are that are sort of the homeless people that you see running around. We have some tremendous legal issues currently with a case from Boise that really restrict what it is we can and can't do.
Oh, wow.
And the one thing that we're sort of missing here is a low barrier shelter, because under the court cases, the only place we can take them is to a low barrier shelter. That's a definition of the federal government. And as much as we love what Lighthouse does and Hospitality House, neither one of those are considered a low barrier shelter on the federal definition. So we are working really hard to find a low barrier shelter where we can take some of these folks. We have Parkside, but that's a voluntary, not involuntary. So they have to choose to go to Parkside for mental health or alcohol rehab or those sorts of things. So we are trying, this council is equally as concerned as you are about some of the things we're seeing in our town, and we are working hard within the letter of the law that we have to deal with. Sort of unfortunate that we've got some court cases that are working against us on some of the stuff, but we're trying.
Wow. Well, I'm really glad to hear that. I'm probably overly sensitive because of what we went through in Marysville and having.
You have the same sensitivity that we have.
Okay.
Great. Welcome back.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else wish to address the council? Saw a couple other folks. Yes, come on up. You go first and then we'll.
Jean Poyer, P.O. Box 228, Kashmir, Washington. I want you to know, Allison, there's no sticks in here. And I just want to come and say thank you for the most part. Thank you very much for your work on all the planning that you've been doing. And I think it's really great that the city of Wenatchee actually had clean air on its mind back in 2010. And I can see that you've done a lot of work. Our group 350 Wenatchee has demanded a lot of attention to the matter because we feel climate change is really important, and we really wanted Wenatchee to be one of the first 100 cities in the United States, but we'll accept you to being, after 100 since there's already over 100. And you have done a lot of work. I was perusing this. One of the most exciting things I noticed in the plan for 2037 is there's no cars on the street. It's just people walking in a Lake Transit bus. So a lot of exciting ideas, transportation. You've done a great job, and I really wanted to just come and say thank you, and I came bearing gifts. One of the concerns that was brought up in our various climate groups was that we had floods this summer, but we know that fires and extreme smoke will be back. And so just curious if in the planning, somewhere there is provisions for emergency shelters, maybe bringing together the Chelan County Health District, county emergency response, possibly schools, so that we can be prepared for extreme heat and smoke for vulnerable elder or people, if it's not already in place. So
I think when we had the fires last time, we had some emergency shelters where people could go and get
Fantastic.
masks and get in air-conditioned areas and stuff.
Chelan Douglas Health works, in a large area, Okanogan County, Chelan County, Douglas County. And they have filtration systems that they can provide for at-risk people. They hand out thousands and thousands of masks during
Right.
smoke seasons. And then if there were a natural disaster, they have plans in place for doing shelters.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I want to particularly thank Mayor Pro Tem Mike Poyer for speaking at our Wenatchee Youth Climate Strike this past Friday. You did just a fantastic job. We're really proud to have so many people there. And this lady is just amazing. So
We think she's amazing too, by the way.
yeah, so I'll leave these with her, but it's
Okay.
for the city council. And,
All right. Thanks, Gene. You bet. Oh, good timing. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name's James Bean, and I'm a relatively new resident to Wenatchee. I moved here about 3 years ago. I'm from the Vancouver area in Washington, and actually still work down there. A full-time job. I'm a physician down there in the area, and I practice in hospital medicine. I come from a background of opioid research as well in the Pacific Northwest. Actually own craft cannabis here in town. I bought it recently and did the remodel on it and put up the billboards and kind of cleaning up the presentation on it. I just want to introduce myself to City Council and to the mayor and everybody and just say that I'm with entering into this business here in town, I want to be a person that's advocating for it to be done respectfully and appropriately and where it becomes an asset to the community. I think everything has risks and benefits, and if it's done appropriately, I think we can benefit the community rather than to cause any drawbacks to it if it's done right. I also wanted to talk to you guys about the hour. There's an hour restriction. I sent an email out. I don't
And I
know
got
how
it.
you guys are
Yep.
about emails, but my inbox gets flooded, and I just sent it a day ago. But I noticed the hours here were 8 to 8, but we're seeing East Wenatchee and the surrounding areas open 8 to 11 or 8 to midnight. And what we're starting to see is a bit of people just transitioning to these other communities and commuting further to shop at these other locations. And so I was going to just make a request to see if we could extend that to 8 to midnight with the state recommendation, and just to see, I know one of the, I think I'm just guessing what some of the concerns were when they limited the hours on it. I went through some of it in Vancouver. I own stores in Vancouver and in Tacoma. And we addressed some of the concerns there with City Council and with the police department about, would they have more calls in the evenings? But we've been watching that pretty closely. I spoke with East Wenatchee Police Department as well to see if they had any increased calls or any increased DUIs in the evenings. They haven't seen that. And so I don't know if that alleviates some concerns. I wanted to check and see if you guys had any other questions about it, if there's anything that I could, help address.
So I will
See what
tell you, I
thoughts
was
were.
not aware that our hours were less than the state code or what was allowed. So that was new to me, so I appreciate the email. And I think, I think generally speaking, we're obviously not going to make that decision today, but I think running it through our chief of police and our planning staff and have them take a look at it and see if there's any other concerns and sort of bring it back to this body for their ultimate decision. I was not aware of it. I think
Yeah.
we generally tend to look at other jurisdictions, not that we always follow what other jurisdictions
Yeah.
do. And the ultimate vote to allow marijuana retail stores in our city was a 4-3 vote. It was very close back in the day. And so I don't remember why we got the hours that we did, but we may have been just trying to get something passed at the time.
Pass at the time.
So I think it's certainly fair for us to take a look at that as a city staff and get it back to the council.
Yeah, and
Maybe before even the end of the year and just see what they're thinking.
that sounds great. And, I'd love to talk to the chief of police. My landlord in Vancouver is chief of police down there. I have a good relationship with him, consider him a friend. And, if I can, I know sometimes going into this, you weigh on the side of caution to
Right.
figure things out and understand things. Now there's more data out there. I think it's helpful. And so if I can make an introduction to talk to another chief
Okay.
of police.
Well, I would just go back in the back row and say hi to the guy with the suit and
Oh,
tie
perfect.
on. That's our chief. And then
Wonderful.
we'll get some information back and forth and we'll
Great.
let you know sort of a
Yeah.
time when we may have a further discussion.
Yeah, and going forward to just, I usually have an active role in the community, so, and I'm pretty new to the area, so if I can be an asset or, you guys will see me around as time goes on.
Perfect.
Yeah, wonderful.
All right.
Pleasure meeting everyone.
Yeah, thanks, James. All right. Anybody else wish to address the council? Yes, sir. Come on up.
I haven't said anything yet. My name's Francisco Blas. My address is 500 Yakima Street. And myself and my wife have recently moved to the area about a couple of years ago too. We like it a lot. The neighborhood we're in, it seems to be improving. And maybe what I have to, my concern dovetails in with a previous speaker's concern about neighborhoods is degrading. The first thing was code enforcement. And one of my concerns is the neighborhood might be in jeopardy of degrading because of lack of code enforcement, namely the nuisance code, chapter 6A.14. And there are cars that are abandoned in alleys, backyards, that sort of thing. Dogs that bark all day, whine because they've been neglected. So I'm wondering, is there recourse for people who are observing this sort of thing? Do they call somebody? Do they fill out a report?
So have you made any calls to code enforcement at all?
No, this is the first I've
Okay.
heard that code enforcement is who you call.
Yeah.
I was told it was Rivercom, and Rivercom told me, because I had some complaints from
Right.
tenants, told me that they had to be there when the act was
So we can get,
happening.
so we can get code enforcement, sort of a general complaint about parking cars or cars in people's yards or some of those sort of things. Code enforcement can handle, go out, research, knock on the door, talk, see if there's a violation, post the violation, see if it gets fixed. Parking in the street that's there for longer than 24 hours, although it's a little bit harder to come get. We have a
Yeah,
parking-
that's not the problem.
Parking
It's mostly
enforcement
in-
folks can get out and do that.
Yeah,
Barking dogs, I'm sure our chief of police would tell you, is probably the most difficult thing. Because as soon as they go out there, the dog's not barking. And I think that's a difficult one. But I think we sort of want to know when those complaints are happening because we can, but we'll get you, do we have a phone number for code enforcement? Is there a direct line to either Lance or,
Or to report online, to report a problem on our website.
mhm.
There's a button on
okay.
the homepage, report a problem.
Either at the website or go to your app store on your smartphone and download Go Request and select the city of Wenatchee, and it has a menu items that you can select. It works slick.
So this is something I can inform neighbors and tenants.
yes, yeah.
They can do.
Because we want, our code enforcement people want to get out and do work. Probably 80% of what they get are complaints in the neighborhood versus the 20% of driving around and going, oh, that's a code line.
Right,
Mostly
right.
what they hear is from neighbors saying, hey, we have an issue in the neighborhood, would you come out and take a look? And they'll do that.
Yeah, I think the frustration was when they come out, like you said, the dog stops barking.
Yeah,
But it's been barking all night.
Yes.
Keeping people up. So, okay. Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, thanks, Francisco. All right, anybody else wish to address the council? I think we are done. So thank you all for addressing the city council tonight. We have a presentation tonight regarding our wastewater treatment plant. Another award. So do we have, come on up. This is a regular occurrence for our team, isn't it?
It really is. Hi, thank you for having me today. My name is Coleman Miller. I'm from the Department of Ecology for Washington State. And it really is a regular occurrence, and we like that. We congratulate you and recognize that this is a regular occurrence. This keeps happening year after year. So this is the Outstanding Performance Award for 2018 for the City of Wenatchee wastewater treatment plant. This Department of Ecology, we're charged with enforcing and keeping track of all the regulations from the Clean Water Act, which keeps track of all water that's discharged into the waters of the U.S. or waters of the state, which is basically any water in our beautiful state of Washington. So this includes all the wastewater treatment plants across the state, and we really like to recognize really good treatment plants and their operators and people, treatment plants that are being very well run. And this Outstanding Performance Award goes to those who, for the whole year, didn't receive any violations of their permit. And this includes everything from monitoring and water quality of the actual water, but also taking care of the treatment plant, taking care of $1 million worth of equipment that the city owns and operates, and many other things that we just recognize that they're doing a really good job. So I'd like to recognize the team. The wastewater operators, the team that makes this possible, along with the support of the city and the city council. So we have Chad Noah is a lead worker, Josh Rader and Travis Clark, who are wastewater treatment plant operators. Katie Landers is a lab tech, Devlin Walt and Andy Dory, maintenance techs, and the wastewater treatment plant supervisors, Adam Reichart. So I'd like to present this to Andy and congratulate him, and hopefully we'll be back next year to do the same thing.
Coleman, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Nice article in the newsletter. Huh? Did you like that? No, you did a great job. Appreciate it. Oh my God, you did.
That's so awesome.
It's nice.
That's big deal.
Congratulations, guys. Last time I got 100% was in Jim Bailey's history class back in high school. Haven't had one since then. All right, action items. We've got a number of action items tonight. The first is regarding code enforcement board officials. So who's doing that for us? Glenn, you got that?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Glenn DeVries, Community Development. We have 2 vacancies on our code enforcement board, and we're pleased to bring before you a recommendation for appointment of Luis Gonzalez to the code enforcement board. Mr. Gonzalez is the building official for the city of Chelan and resides in Wenatchee. And the code enforcement board provided a unanimous recommendation for him to serve that 2-year term expiring December 31st, 2020. To continue the remaining component of that term.
Excellent. All right, I'd entertain a motion if we had one.
Your Honor, I will make a motion for City Council to approve resolution number 2019-38, appointing a member to the Wenatchee Code Enforcement Board, Luis Gonzalez.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Esparza, second by Councilmember Harold to approve resolution 2019-38, appointing Luis Gonzalez to the Wenatchee Code Enforcement Board. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say, oh.
I had a question. Did he just wander in, or was he approached by someone, or how is it that he decided to do it?
The building officials in the 2-county area have a lot of discussions and are on a friendly basis, and as a resident in Wenatchee, I think Cliff and he talked, and Cliff's always looking for good members for the code enforcement board, and we had a vacancy, and he was willing to apply to serve.
Been working for over 10 years with the public on code enforcement issues, so he's obviously been involved already. And
Correct. So he has a really good background and understanding of the issues associated with it. So we we think it'll be a real asset. That understanding.
Yeah, we have people living in Wenatchee that drive to Chelan and work for the city of Chelan, and we have people that live in Chelan that drive to Wenatchee to work for the city of Wenatchee. So he's, works for the city of Chelan in the related field and be a good asset to have. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, lodging tax. Allison, new member to the committee.
Yes, good evening. Allison Williams, Executive Services Director. I have the next couple of items for you. The first is Resolution 2019-40. We had a resignation from the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee for a at-large position. And word went out, and Linda Hageland, who's in the back, she's just a networker, that woman is. And we had an application back into us in order to act on it at our last joint meeting that we had with a recommendation to approve Kristen Lodge, who works for the Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center. And so she would come in and fill the remaining portion of the term through December 31st of 2020.
All right, any questions for Allison? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I will recuse myself on this item.
Okay, so noted.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the City Council to approve Resolution Number 2019-40, appointing a member to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee to fill an unexpired term ending December 31, 2020, that being Kristen Lodge.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Poyer to adopt Resolution 2019-40, appointing Kristen Lodge as a member of the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee to fill an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2020. Excuse me. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Excuse me. Allison, museum contract.
Linda, do you want to come forward? Linda Hageland is here representing the museum board.
Okay.
You have before you a new joint agreement between the City of Wenatchee, City of East Wenatchee, and the Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center, which is a contract for their services on behalf of our two cities. We're pleased to bring you this renewal. On the city's side, it increases, it's for a new 5-year agreement. It increases our contract amount from $270,000 a year to $300,000 per year. By essentially raising the per capita amount, and then East Wenatchee is matching that on their per capita. The agreement maintains the commitment to the museum for city ownership and maintenance of the museums. However, it does add a provision that allows us to develop an agreement that is an understanding of who does what. And we found this in a lot of our agreements with our buildings, that we really need to better define that. I noted the City of East Wenatchee portion, also East Wenatchee added some additional language so that they could utilize their lodging taxes for this purpose. We would ask that if you are working to approve, have a motion to have the mayor sign the contract, you would ask that it be substantially in this form. We did get an email late yesterday where there was a request to change some of East Wenatchee's language. And so they will take up this agreement next week. I don't foresee anything on our end changing. So any comments? Or?
No, the reason Kristen Lodge wasn't here for the last approval and Kenny Sturgeon, our executive director, is not here tonight. They are both in a major fundraising dinner that was put on the calendar months ago. So I serve as board president currently of the Museum and Cultural Center, along with council member Markhart sits on that board as well. And so we just appreciate the connection with the city and the support of the city. And as a board, we're working really hard to create something very special in that building, in that organization.
Great, thank you. And I think it was, the last contract we had didn't really have any cost increases at all. It was $270 for, 3 or 4 years. So it made sense for us to look at some cost of living increases and sort of multiplied them and got up to the $300,000 number, which I think makes sense. And so super excited the city of East Wenatchee is continuing to participate in our museum and making it a regional asset, which it is. And it's been all the things that have happened over the last 8 years, this is one of the ones that's most special to me, that East Wenatchee is participating with us in a per capita base to keep the museum going. So I'm thrilled and just excited to get a few more years out of it.
And just a little feedback, I've had several people come up to me and say, have you seen what they're doing at the museum? It's fabulous. So I think all the programs that are being initiated and presented are making a big difference. The community is noticing.
Thank you, Councilmember Huppaker. And also, you probably have gotten your invitation to My Sky. My Sky is a pretty amazing exhibit opening up next week. So we're really excited about that. I guess it arrived today, right on top of the murder mystery dinner tonight. It's been an exciting day at the museum.
Wow. All right, any questions for Allison or?
No, Your Honor, I'll make the motion, but before I do, I want to clarify, Allison, your language is substantially in the form that's presented. What, I hate to sign blank checks. Or just not knowing what might get put in there.
There was a request on East Wenatchee's language to change a reference for what their funding could go to. So it has nothing, it doesn't change
our obligation or anything.
Right.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah, East Wenatchee wants to make sure their money is not going to the Wells House, and there's some language in here about that. I think they just probably want some clarification as to, they're just clear that.
Okay, so East Wenatchee residents never visit the Wells House.
That's
I
just.
didn't know that.
It's just, I think they're supporting the museum, and they had, so
All right, I will make a motion for the city council to authorize the city to enter into a joint agreement between the city of Wenatchee, the city of East Wenatchee, and the Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center in substantially the form as presented, and authorize the mayor's signature.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Bailey, second by Councilmember Markart to authorize the city to enter in the joint agreement between the city of Wenatchee, city of East Wenatchee, and the Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center, and authorize the mayor to sign this contract in substantially the same form as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Linda.
much. Oh, she'll be so excited I get to text her. Thank you.
All right, Allison.
Okay, the next item you have before you is Resolution 2019-39. You were all present, I believe, for the work session last week where we went over House Bill 1406 that provides us with the opportunity to retain a portion of the sales tax here in the region for affordable housing. And it was consensus last week to make sure that we got this resolution prepared and on your agenda so we could preserve our place in that. We will then be having a discussion with the county and talking with them about their intentions and their timelines so that we can be aligned to either go with them or on our own if we need to.
So this is just the resolution of intent.
Yes.
All right, any questions from the council? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'd like to move for City Council to approve Resolution Number 2019-39, declaring the intent of the City of Wenatchee to adopt legislation to authorize a sales and use tax for affordable and supportive housing in accordance with substitute House Bill 1406, Chapter 338, Laws of 2019, and other matters related thereto.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember Kulas to adopt Resolution 2019-39, declaring the intent of the City of Wenatchee to adopt legislation to authorize a sales and use tax for affordable and supportive housing in accordance with substitute House Bill 1406, Chapter 338, Laws of 2019, and other matters related thereto. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Allison. Mr. Hoover, sanitary sewer, stormwater.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Let's see, I guess the first item on the agenda is, or on my part of it, is to request some additional funds for a change order to the Old Station Sanitary Sewer Expansion Project Phase 2. That's the work that we did to replace the lift station that is just basically completed. Reason I'm asking for, excuse me, reason I'm here is to address the fact that the force main that crosses the SR 285 bridge, the southbound bridge, has been in place for a very long time, and some observations that have been made by both staff as well as DOT employees have shown some areas of concern where some of the insulation has come off, and we're also curious about how that was actually constructed. The record drawings from when that was built back in the early 80s specifically exclude that particular portion of the pipeline. It shows everything that's upstream of the bridge and downstream of the bridge, but it doesn't show us what was actually built on the bridge. So what we need to do is determine how much flow we can actually put through that section of pipe. The existing pumps that we just built are more than capable of overwhelming that pipe if we let them, so we're intentionally running them throttled down. And by doing this inspection as well as repair of the installation, we can find out how much that pipe is restrained and what type of material it was used in its construction, several things that will allow us to back calculate how much flow we can actually put into that without causing any problems. KRCI was the contractor that built the lift station improvements. We still have them under contract. This would be a change order to their current contract. And they've provided us some costs and some ideas as to what it would take, some of the efforts that they need to put forth to get this done. They're more than capable of doing the job. Some of it they have to sub out to other contractors. And that's why I'm here asking for a little bit of extra money here to get that taken care of.
Jeremy, it changes from a 12-inch to, are you changing the size? Or I didn't listen.
We're not replacing any pipe at this point. This is just assessing what's already in place.
Is there a thought you would replace the pipe? Because some of it looks like it's sort of old and cruddy.
It looks like you got a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The long-term plan is to have a second force main that crosses the river. It's just a matter of where that corridor would be. In order to get some acceptable levels of redundancy, we would want it to be on a separate corridor other than the bridge. In case something catastrophic happens, we want to be able to utilize the existing force main that's on the bridge, as well as whatever the new one is when we decide to build it, whether it's on confluence, whether it's on its own standalone bridge, head bridge. Like I said, there's multiple options. But this is just to make sure that we can see how much we can put through that existing pipe. So no replacement at this point.
But I guess I'm thinking maybe the same thing as Mike is would our money be better spent just designing and putting in a new pipe instead of inspecting this one? Because like you said, the pictures show it's in pretty rough shape.
Okay, so the picture
why just test it when it looks like it needs to be replaced?
So replacing the pipe would bring about a big set of challenges. We'd have to maintain, because this pipe takes everything that's north of the river and pumps it across to the treatment plant. So we would have to have something in place that would be able to take those loads while we put the new one in place. And if we did replace it, that wouldn't address the redundancy issue. So that's an additional cost beyond what we have allocated in what we're calling phase 3, which is the force main work. The existing pipe, it may look like it's extremely bad right here. I've seen a whole lot worse than this. What you're looking at right now, my anticipation is what we're going to find is that's just surface rust, just oxidation over the surface. The insulation's gone in many places. There's no doubt about that. But that's what you're seeing is falling apart. Basically the pipe wrap, not necessarily the main itself.
I thought it was a Band-Aid.
The other thing to know here is that, we would, even if, we should do an assessment before we decide our next plan of action. One of the reasons this cost of payment is so high is because of the safety factor of the scaffolding. I think that was
Yeah, it takes a special contractor to be able to put scaffolding on the underside of a bridge. And we've got to do it for the entire 400-foot length. So that, you can look at the beginning portion, but you still have to have the beginning scaffold to get to the end of the project. So it's a lot more in-depth than what it would be just putting scaffolding up to paint the side of your house.
And are they doing this fall?
Yes.
Okay.
Potentially, if this gets approved, probably in the next couple of weeks.
And I guess that's where I'm going is doesn't it make sense? We're going to all the work to put the scaffolding and everything else in. You could lay another pipe literally next to this one, could you not?
Potentially, yes. You would also be adding a 0 to that change order.
I understand, but depending on what you find, that 0 may be there, and then we're going to put the scaffolding all back out again. I'm just trying to save money somehow in the long run.
Sure.
I'm going to trust my experts to tell me what to do, so.
I'm hoping that it turns out that that is in better condition than what we're thinking the worst case would be.
Okay.
What I'm trying to be able to do is have a level of confidence that'll allow me to turn that lift station up. That's the main thing, so that we don't have.
That would be a real disaster if you cranked up the pumps and you blew a pipe.
Right, we don't want to have a sewage spill.
Yeah, that's why we're running those pumps at about half capacity right now.
How long's the pipe?
It's about 400 feet underneath the bridge deck.
Wow.
Is that, kind of looking down the road, you replace that pipe or thinking about, capacity and so forth it's what now, 12 inch?
It's 12 inch, correct.
Is that adequate for future loads as development goes on out there and we start adding on, or are we going to have to shove a lot, turn those pumps up higher and pump a lot more stuff through there?
If the pipe, when we pull off this existing installation, if it is restrained, it has plenty of capacity. Capacity won't be the issue regarding the force main system. Capacity will be well above what we would need even with a fully developed sunny slope. However, fully developed sunny slope would be problematic if that is not restrained. So that's the decision that we'll need to make when we figure out what's actually there.
And if we end up getting the money for Confluence Parkway, I think the consensus from the folks that might be a place to put the second force main across. And then you've got double capacity, and if one bridge falls, you've got the other. And if that doesn't go through, then I think they're looking for another way to get another pipe across just for redundancy purposes. Not unlike we're trying to do with regional water, to be honest with you. Yeah. All right, any other questions for Jeremy? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the city council to amend the construction contract with KRCI to pay for the additional inspection and repair work and further authorize the mayor to approve the construction change order in the amount of $169,000.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Huffaker, second by Councilmember Bailey to amend the construction contract with KRCI to pay for the additional inspection and repair work and further authorize the mayor to approve the construction change order in the amount of $169,000. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the next one, Jeremy?
Next one. This one I'm not actually asking for money. I'm asking for you to accept money. We are putting a new storm drain across the PUD yard north of Holly. We talked about this at the last council meeting. Construction is anticipated to begin next week. We have spoken with the PUD on multiple occasions, and we have entered into or are proposing to enter into an interlocal agreement for cost sharing for the expenditures associated with that pipe replacement. And this agreement that is attached is what we've finally come up with after a couple of iterations, and they are agreeing to pay 50% of the construction costs. They've already agreed to pay 50% of the design costs, and that work has already been completed. So I'm here to ask the City Council to authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement between the City of Wenatchee and PUD for sharing the construction costs for the North Wenatchee stormwater facility improvements.
Well, I want to hurry up and make a motion. I'll make a motion for the city council to authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement between the City of Wenatchee and the Public Utility District Number 1 of Chelan County for sharing of the construction costs of the North Wenatchee Stormwater Facility Improvement Project Number 1617.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Poyer, second by Councilmember Harold to authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement between the City of Wenatchee and Public Utility District Number 1 of Chelan County for sharing of the construction cost of the North Wenatchee Stormwater Facility Improvements, Project Number 1617. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Jeremy. All right. Rob, you sitting in for Gary?
So good evening. This item is to, we have a $890,000 project that's linked together with the McKittrick signal. We landed a $745,000 grant for pedestrian improvements along North Wenatchee Avenue to the north and south of McKittrick. And so this is to authorize the mayor, we're requesting to authorize the mayor to negotiate a contract with RH2 Engineering. We had an RFQ process in August. RH2 was the only one that submitted on it. They are the designer on the McKittrick signal. And so this is just asking them to proceed with the design of these improvements. As you know, we're well underway on the design of the signal, and KPG had done a lot of preliminary work already on North Wenatchee Avenue. So much of the the upfront legwork is already done, and this is just actually getting the construction drawings prepared for that project, which is planned for construction, I'll say it to the mayor, in 2020.
Okay.
So.
I'm glad you just didn't keep saying next year. All right, any questions for Rob? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion for the city council to authorize the mayor to negotiate with RH2 Engineering for design service for the North Wenatchee Avenue pedestrian and median improvements, project number 1615, and further authorize the mayor to sign a contract on behalf of the city.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Markart, second by Councilmember Bailey. To authorize the mayor to negotiate with RH2 Engineering for design services for North Wenatchee Avenue pedestrian and median improvements, project number 1615, and further authorize the mayor to sign contracts on behalf of the city. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Rob. Brad, business licensing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Got before you ordinance 2019-33 relating to business licenses. On October 17th, the city is required to move its business license application and administration process to the Department of Revenue, to the Business Licensing Service. As part of that process, Department of Revenue recommends that we update our city code so that it actually reflects the way we're going to be doing business at that point and no longer taking the applications here. So most of the code changes that you see in here are just administrative updates to reflect the fact that we aren't the ones physically issuing the business licenses anymore. It will be the state business licensing service. As part of this process, as we were going through it, we noticed that there are certain types of licenses that the state will not issue. Even though we're required to move the bulk of our licenses to their system, there are a few licenses that they won't do. The temporary licenses and then these utility licenses that we have are a couple of them. And for us to retain the administration of that is going to be very inefficient for our staff and is going to create extra costs that we would save if we were able to just move the entire process over to the state. So two pieces in here that reflect that we've added. Section 5.79.090, Section 2, it would remove the temporary business licenses and it just require that everybody who needs a business license in the city of Wenatchee just go through the regular process rather than having this 3-year, 30-day temporary license. Just for a point of reference, so far in 2019, we have issued 45 of the 3-day licenses and 21 of the 30-day licenses. Those are, I believe they're mostly out-of-town businesses that come in just to do business for a few days. We really don't have any process that our code enforcement goes out and can track down these people who aren't getting licenses. So this is kind of this is an area that we don't have a whole lot of control over, but for some reason years ago it was put in. I don't know if it was a revenue generating item or not. But then there's also something in section 5.84.050, there are, we have a business license requirement for utility providers. And apparently we could only set, when this was done, we could only set the rate at $10. There must be some sort of federal regulation that requires, or that does not allow us to charge a full business license if we're also charging a utility tax on them. And so we get a whole whopping $300 a year from these $10 licenses, and it requires well over $300 of administration on our side. So we were just hoping that we could get rid of that and save headache all around. We'll still be getting the taxes from the utility providers. So I would open it up if you have any questions.
So maybe you said 30 licensed from out of town. We don't have a license for people that sell produce, is that correct?
There are exemptions for businesses for farmers who grow their produce within the state of Washington and sell them themselves within the state, within the city limits. They do not have to get a business license. I should also add that doing away with that temporary license and making them get a regular license, that will not apply to events like Apple Blossom and whether it's the farmers market or Fiestas Mexicanas. We still have a provision in this code that requires the event organizer to work with all of their vendors and give us a master list of which businesses they have, and they will still be eligible for the $25 or $50 temporary licenses versus the $75 regular license.
Are we nervous about turning this over to the state, or you think it's going to be a good thing?
For finance staff, it's going to be a good thing. I think for most businesses, I think it will end up being a good thing because right now, if you do business in more than just the city of Wenatchee, you have to go to Wenatchee and get a business license. You have to go to East Wenatchee, or you used to have to go to East Wenatchee and get a business license, and maybe go to 10 different cities and also get your state business license. Now, East Wenatchee is already on the state system. So if your business is doing business in East Wenatchee, you already have to go to the state system to get your license. So they would go to the same place, be able to do all their business in one spot. I think the businesses who solely do their business within the Wenatchee city limits, it's going to be a change of process. There's going to be like an $11 application fee that is paid to the state in addition to our $75 for our business license.
And currently, if I'm not mistaken, you guys mail something out and then I sign it and mail it back?
Yeah,
What kind of notification will we be getting?
The state will still send out notifications. The state will send out the notifications to the individual business owners. We've given them a data dump of all of our current licenses, so they have that, so they'll be able to send that out. They're going to put it on a calendar basis. We've always done a year from the date they applied is when their license expires. It'll be a calendar basis. So businesses that are not currently on a calendar basis, they will get a prorated fee. So instead of paying $75, they'll pay a prorated fee to get them through 2020, and then they'll be on a January through December cycle after that. And it'll fall in line with all of the other business licenses they may get. From the finance department's perspective, we'll be getting rid of some administration on this. From code enforcement side of it, they're going to be doing a little more working with the state database and figuring things out. So there's a trade-off.
Brad, obviously this is a state mandated kind of thing. There's no free lunches. Does the state charge us? Or are we going to have to pay administrative costs to the state?
We don't have to pay any administrative fees. Our revenue should stay the same. What they say is our revenue will probably actually increase because they will find a lot of businesses that aren't currently getting a city of Wenatchee business license that should be. So the state recovers their costs with this. I believe it's an $11 application fee.
So if my business license was 70, it's now going to be 81. They're going to send you 70 and they're going to keep 11 for processing. Yeah. So they're making a little bit on this deal too.
And I do believe, and so if you are like if you're a business that's getting a East Wenatchee and a Wenatchee business license, you don't have to pay that $11 to the state twice. You pay that once for all of your business
However many
licenses. So if you're a business that's already getting a business license in multiple cities, you're already paying that. So it won't cost them anymore. It will, yeah.
All right, any other questions for Brad? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion for the city council to adopt ordinance number 2019-33, amending Title V licenses and taxation of the Wenatchee City Code, WCC, by amending portions of Chapter 5.08, Audit Entertainment, and repealing Chapter 5.30, Flight Schools, amending Chapter 5.4, License Security Police, Merchant Police, Detective Agencies, amending Chapter 5.76, Business Licenses, and amending Chapter 5.84, Utilities Tax.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Huffaker, second by Councilmember Esparza, for the city council to adopt ordinance 2019-33, amending Title V licenses and taxation of the Wenatchee City Code by amending portions of Chapter 508 Adult Entertainment, repealing Chapter 5.30 Flight Schools, amending Chapter 5.40 Licensed Security Police, Merchant Police, Detective Agencies, amending Chapter 5.76 Business Licenses, and amending Chapter 5.84 Utility Tax. Have any discussion?
Just a comment, Your Honor, I find the flight school one kind of irritating. Is that something that's been embedded in the thing? Probably goes back to World War II when they were training pilots or.
It went back to when the city owned Pangbourne Airport. So years ago, apparently the city owned Pangbourne Airport. And so the city had rules. If you were going to be a flight school at a city-owned airport, then you had to get a specific license for that.
Right.
Well, since the city no longer has a city-owned airport, that whole section is irrelevant. So we decided to clean that up while we were doing this as well.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You knew he had an answer for that.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
All right. Aaron, Elise, who's coming up? Just you? She doesn't want any part of this, does she? No. Okay. I don't blame her.
Tim, can I share my screens? If I hit just share?
Yeah. You connected to wireless?
Just wanted to share a picture. Current rendering, so. You get that on.
There we go.
Okay. So Aaron Kelly, Public Works Operations Manager, and I'm here to discuss our Old City Hall project, number 1809. And, what I'm trying to show is just a recent rendering of the project. And so currently, as you're showing all of my.
One moment,
We're
moving City Hall.
Yeah. It's the new rendering, sorry.
We're going to get the Kelly family slideshow here in a little bit, so get some popcorn out. And we can,
Was that some of the
Can you guys
1%
see that
for the
now?
arts?
No. It was up there.
Yeah, it was up.
Well, the voting.
Kind of cool.
Okay.
Definitely get your attention if that was out
So-
in front of City Hall.
Okay, well, we know.
I'll try to
We saw
continue to
it.
go on here.
We
but,
saw it.
we saw it. It was
I
good.
saw it, it was beautiful.
Okay. So we've been working through the design process for Old City Hall, and we've received 4 construction bids. The low bidder was TW Clark Construction out of Spokane in the amount of $2,107,000. This includes both GSA tenant improvements and also the city shell improvements as well. Total budget for the project, including design and abatement, is $2,840,726. Financial impacts based on that total budget is basically the shell improvement. The city's impact is $1,284,962. And then the tenant improvements, so GSA, is the $1,555,764. We did review the Set Finance Committee earlier today, and they were in favor of moving forward. The staff is currently in process, though, in generating more of a price breakdown. What we've learned through leasing to GSA is that they require quite the details in the breakdown, including a tenant improvement calculation sheet, which we have to go back and talk with the contractor and their subs to be able to break down all of the labor and materials for each project. Well, to do that, not only we need to be able to establish the contract, but then also we need to be able to pay them for that work. The contractor has estimated the labor cost to produce this pricing information to be $15,500. So what we're asking for tonight is that the City Council approve the remodel project 1809 budget of $2,840,726. To have the City Council authorize the mayor to award the project 1809 and sign the contract, construction contract to TW Clark Construction in the amount of $2,107,000. And then also for City Council to authorize the mayor to sign a change order to the project 1809 with TW Clark Construction in the amount of $15,500 to produce this pricing breakdown.
So the pricing breakdown is required by GSA.
Correct.
Okay. So in order to get the reimbursement, they got to know how many pieces of drywall and all that sort of stuff. So it's sort of a cost of the deal. In terms of GSA's contribution, are they going to pay all of it up front or most of it up front as the bills come in? What's the latest from GSA?
So right now after we give them pricing, we'll actually start a negotiation period. So we have right now, the time has been ticking for us to produce this contract, this TIX form, which we had 25 days, which is required to be back by October 11th. And then after that, they have 30 days to start negotiating. During that negotiation, I think we'll find out what the payment schedule would be.
Okay. But they've told you sort of that they plan on paying for a majority of theirs.
That's our understanding at this time.
And then obviously this is more than we thought we were going to spend on our side.
Correct.
But we're doing a little bit of work to the front of it to make it look nicer. Heating, air conditioning.
Yep.
It's going to be brand new.
We'll have some electrical and plumbing upgrades as well.
And then not the retrofit, but the earthquake.
Yep, seismic upgrades. Yep.
Okay.
Any questions?
Brad?
What's our payback on our portion of it? I mean, I know we had like a 10-year lease with them. And
got a 10 with a couple of 5s. It's about $160,000 a year in rent. So at a 5 cap, which is probably about right, it values that rent payment about $3.2 million or so. So we're getting, so it's the value is there in the lease. Again, it's more than we thought we were going to spend. I think everything we're looking at is more than we thought we were going to spend. At the end of the day, I think it's still the right thing to do. But our facility fund is starting to get sort of, we will be getting the fire station sort of ready for sale, I think, just as soon as the fire folks get out of there, if not a little bit ahead of that, just get it listed and get it going. And then we're working on getting the facilities guys out of the police station so that when IT moves up here, we can get that thing on the market as well and get that sold. So we're fine. It's just more than we thought we were going to do. I still think it's the right thing to do. Having tenants upstairs with what the police guys are doing down below and if we ever wanted to sell the building, we could sell it pretty easily we rented the bottom floor from them for the police and more than get our money back. It just, we finance things differently. We don't go to the bank and get a 20-year mortgage on our real estate. We just sort of pay for it as we go. So it does make us sort of have to play some games.
But the tenant improvement, it's just, we're getting all that money.
We get all of our money, yeah. And we'll get most of it up front and the rest we don't, we get over 10 years, I think, or something.
That's the important part is we're getting all of our money back and then some. So
yeah,
we're still okay.
Yep.
And they put Mike Boyer in the picture.
Oh, is that Mike on his phone? It is. I photoshopped you right in there. Yeah. All right, any other questions? I know Finance Committee talked about it at length today and ended up approving it unanimously, so I think we're ready to go. So I'd entertain a motion if we had one.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to approve the remodel project 1809, budget of $2,840,726, and authorize the mayor to award project 1809 and sign a construction contract to T.W. Clark Construction, LLC, for the amount of $2,107,000, and authorize the mayor to sign a change order to project 1809 with T.W. Clark Construction, LLC, in the amount of $15,500 to produce the pricing breakdown.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember Poyer, to approve the remodel project 1809 budget of $2,840,726. Authorize the mayor to award project 1809 and side construction contracts to T.W. Clark Construction, LLC, for the amount of $2,107,000, and authorize the mayor to sign a change order to project 1809 with T.W. Clark Construction, LLC, in the amount of $15,500 to produce the pricing breakdown.
The rest of the design cost.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Next item is a public hearing item regarding an addition of property to the Wenatchee Register of Historic Places. So for public hearings, we'll hear from staff, comments from council. They'll turn over to the public for any comment they may wish to make, and then back to the council for any action. Glenn, looks like this is yours.
It is. Good evening. Again, Glenn DeVries, Community Development. The Historic Board received an application from the Parks and Recreation Department to nominate the cemetery and its facilities to the local Historic Register of Places. The incentive in doing this is it provides our ability to receive grants from the Historic Cemetery Grant Program in a much better light, because we would have that local registry, which would be an amazing resource for us to invest into the cemetery. The cemetery itself, let's see here, recognizes the nomination recommendation from the Historic Board, recognizes the significance that the cemetery holds with regard to historic figures, events, and building, and qualifies under the code. So the Historic Board provided a recommendation, unanimous recommendation of approval for you to consider this evening.
Any questions for Glenn? I just sort of have one. I know the idea is to get this grant to repair the mausoleum. Is that right?
You know, and I'm not certain, I'm sorry.
The white building that's falling apart that we talked about at Finance today.
So putting it on the historic register would open them up to.
Yes, some grant money. Is there?
Go figure Dave Erickson would be right on top
Yes,
of
he's
that.
right on top of that. But my question is it any sort of, you know, we were talking today about whoever's running into the fence and knocking it down. Is the fence now historic? Or are we gonna have to repair it differently? We built a new building? I mean, are there other things that were,
What's the downside?
that's,
You know,
we're gonna go, oh my God, I can't believe we got the entire cemetery as part of a historic thing and we have to do something different because we were trying to get $42,000 to fix the building that's falling down.
True, and the, you know, items that are considered historic on the grounds would need to go through the Historic Board for that review.
Yeah, but those that
process.
aren't historic don't
If they're
have
not
to do that.
historic, then it's a different story. They're, you know, not necessarily contributing.
Got it.
The fence is getting quite a history. But
It is. Getting knocked down every week, yeah. I think Steve Smith should quit driving on Western Avenue.
That's not a safe place to ride your bike.
No. All right, any other questions for Glenn? Hearing none. Any member of the audience wish to address the council on this public hearing item? Oh, here comes Dan. Are you reporting on it or commenting on it?
I I am here as a representative of the city's Arts, Parks, Recreation, and Cemetery Commission.
Excellent.
Dan Longauger, 1107 Westwood Ave, and I am the chairperson of the commission. And so here on behalf of the commission to say that we support this recommendation to the Historic Preservation Board. As you noted, Mayor, there is definitely some work that needs to be done at the mausoleums. If you haven't seen them, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but one of the white ones is you can see holes in the walls and the stucco's peeling.
It's the Clark.
Thank you. Yeah, Clark. Yeah. In terms of the fence, I don't believe so. That might fall to some of our maintenance crews to come up with a plan for mitigating, making sure that we don't have I think it was just 2 weeks ago, another car drove through. So definitely something needs to be done about that. But certainly a lot of potential for grant funding. As you all know, Dave Erickson is the king of getting grant funding to come to a lot of projects. The Hale Park Skate Park just opened up last week, and that was entirely grant funded. So just wanted to say that this is something the commission supports, and we look forward to what that could mean for future projects at the cemetery. If you haven't had a chance to see the new offices, they are very nice. The staff very much appreciates that, and we thank you for making that happen.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Any other members of the community wish to address the council on this public hearing item? See no takers. I will turn it over to the council for their action.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the City Council to accept the Historic Preservation Board recommendation to add the property located at 1804 Northwestern Avenue, the Wenatchee Cemetery and Mausoleum, to the Wenatchee Register of Historic Places based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained within Resolution 2019-41.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Bailey, to accept the Historic Preservation Board recommendation to add the property located at 1804 Northwestern Avenue, Wenatchee Cemetery and Mausoleum to the Wenatchee Register of Historic Places based on the findings and facts and conclusions of law contained within Resolution 2019-41. Discussion.
I just have to say that my biological clock went upside down right now hearing Dan.
Yeah.
He's like drinking a cup of coffee in the morning.
This should be morning hearing Dan talk.
Exactly.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I guess I'll start with the city budget. So Brad and I and staff have been working on it pretty regularly for the last couple of weeks. There was the baseline budget, which sort of started with last year's, everything being the same. There was 91 requests. We went through them today at finance. We started at 2:30. We ended just about 5. And so we funded, I don't know, 2/3 of what was asked for. So you will get a budget sent to you Monday in your email. It will be the budget that we all sort of agreed to today. It will be out of balance by $150,000 or $60,000 on the reoccurring stuff. Non-reoccurring, we're probably okay based on the numbers that Brad's talked about in terms of a budget that he wants to try to hold to a fund balance. We have a little bit more work to do. The chief has asked for 3 additional on his side. One is sort of to backfill the school resource officer and 2 other positions to get to his full 45. The finance committee left him 1 short of that. And we have some other sort of parks maintenance was looking for 2/3 of a person, and there were a few others, in light of the additional parks we're taking on and some of that sort of stuff. So we have a little ways to go, but we're sort of getting there. But again, as you get those in the mail or in your email, feel free to get back to us and say, hey, Frank, you're an idiot. You should have funded this and not that. Or why did you think we should do this and not that? I think we sort of agreed on probably 95% of them as the finance committee. I left a couple of, well, we'll look at it when we sort of get towards the end of the numbers and see where they sit. So again, a great set of asks and requests, but we're getting close. You'll get something on Monday. That'll be your first sort of shot at it as the entire council. When do we go through it here first time? mid-October-ish. Okay. Okay, so you'll get your first run of it again next week. We now officially own the WashDOT property, so I signed papers on Tuesday. I think it closed today or yesterday. So we are the owners of a whole bunch of used office furniture. A lot of it underwater, but we own the property. We've been working on, we did have a call with Drew Shirk in the governor's office on Tuesday afternoon. For you that don't know Drew, Drew was a high school, not in my class, 1 year older than me, but he's been in the governor's office, legislative affairs, for a number of years. So when we get issues, so we did talk to him specifically about the ecology issue regarding lead arsenic and sort of how that's coming down, and he's been helpful with that. We did also talk a little bit about our infra grant. If you look at a couple of the points that we were weakest on, one was the NEPA, which we're finishing, and the second was this sort of, does the city have the financial resources to put a deal like this together? So we're going to ask WashDOT to give us a letter of support, more than just we think it's a great project. So we're trying to figure out how to get with Secretary Millar and talk with him about things that WashDOT can do to help strengthen our project. It will be interesting politically because they also have their own project, which is the Gateway Project in Puget Sound to help get truck vehicles in and out of the port of Tacoma or the port of Seattle. I don't know which one of those ports. So, but anyhow, we're going to try to work through that. And Drew was great sort of working with us. This morning we had the port's breakfast, port partner breakfast, and then we met with Lieutenant Governor was in town, Cyrus Habib, so we talked economic development with him this morning. I did welcome the Washington State TIB today. Met with Richard Durock on Link regarding the, I guess there's every 3 or 4 years we have to talk about what our what the board composition is. So I don't know if you have any sort of thoughts about that, but if we wanted more board say, we could probably get more board say on Link. I don't know that we have a real reason to do so. They can put the board based by population, and if they do it based by population, we would get 3 board seats, not 1. And the counties would lose some board seats, and it would sort of rearrange the board.
How many seats are there?
Is there a dozen on that board?
Yeah, there's 12.
2 county commissioners from each
Two
county.
county
So
commissioners
that's
from each
4,
county.
and then all the cities.
And then all the cities have 1.
Yeah, and so there's a different way under the PTBA, whatever that, is that right? Transportation benefit, whatever
Yeah.
the law is that created those sorts of things, that they can do them differently. Unless you have a real sense that it's not working, I'm sort of inclined just to sort of leave it the way it is. I don't think we should get a majority of the Link bus lines because we're the urban area, and I think we get a majority of those anyhow. So unless we see things where it's becoming way more urban and less rural, I don't know that there's a reason for us to ask for more seats on the board.
I guess just real briefly, my take on that, having sat on the Link board now for a number of years, I guess I'd kind of put it in that category of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There, in my time on the board, I haven't seen any real reason. There hasn't been any compelling reason to rearrange the chairs. The only thing that I guess I would, anecdotal at best, notice is that there is sometimes a steering of direction depending on whether you have a chairman that's one of the county commissioners or a chairman that's one of the city folks. But overall, I think the board does a pretty good job of representing the whole district,
right?
And trying to meet the needs of that. Just to follow up with that, it kind of drops into the last area there, but while we're on this, let me just say briefly that yesterday at the Link board meeting, we had lengthy discussion because we are in the process now of starting to put together implement the strategic plan since we now have the money to expand service and do those kinds of things. So by July of 2020, this coming July, that will be the rollout of the things. That entails then, I think we start actually collecting money in April.
Yeah.
And so you've got to hire, I think it's 16 new drivers. You've got to have additional dispatchers. You've got to, there's a lot of more folks, and plus we've got to buy more buses. I can't remember the exact number. I think 10. Maybe it's 8, but at any rate, it's right now in the current market. If we put an order in today, it's 2 years before you get your bus. Right. So there's a lot of moving pieces to this thing, but expanding daily service, expanding Saturday service, implementing Sunday service. There's just a lot of things that the ask when we ask the community to support it and give us the money, we're starting to put those things together to do that. So be kind of interesting to see how it all plays out.
Okay. So when I meet, and again, it's not for a couple of weeks, but I won't make any or request any changes to the board composition. I don't think there's any reason to do that. Allison, what do you have on your side?
I think you caught most of them. We probably have some real estate updates to do in exec.
Yeah, I think probably next time, we don't meet next Thursday, so probably on the 10th, plan on a number of sort of updates in terms of some real estate stuff. We're getting some purchase and sell stuff put together on some of the stuff out at Northwest Wholesale, and then we've got the Washtenaw property. We'll be out doing some RFQs or RFPs, I forget, just sort of requests for what would you do with the property, and other sorts of miscellaneous sort of real estate items that we'll probably spend some time talking about.
Yep.
Council members, anything going on stuff you're working on?
We had a nice update from the ACH the other day. They
Okay.
give us a quarterly update, and sounds like things are going well there still. So doing some new programs for people at risk outreaches.
Okay. We did meet with Rashi from the governor's office, Senator Parlett, Allison and I and Aaron on earlier this week. Talk about money for Parkside, and it sounds like probably the only way to get one would be through the capital budget in Olympia, so we may put together an ask. It seems to have the less amount of strings attached. So wouldn't be my number one choice of a capital project ask if I didn't have to deal with Parkside, but it seems to me like we really don't have any other choices but to try to tell our case that we're not in the mental health business and we shouldn't be repairing a building that's somebody else is supposed to fix. So I thought it went well, but clearly there was some grant dollars we could apply for, but those came with a whole bunch of strings attached that I don't think we're interested in having attached to that. So we'll see where that goes. All right.
Just one other thing, Your Honor, just like to mention, I think, Allison, you have on our, what is it, the 17th, or some discussion of a legislative agenda. Just wanted to kind of give you a heads up that at that point, kind of working in, with AWC on, the state level for a number of years now. We've always kind of, I guess, always been kind of the mayor. You've, kind of launched that,
right,
and work with our legislators. But I've come to, I guess, kind of believe that there's a lot of things have changed in the last, 12 years since I came on the council. That I think it's valuable and would be valuable both to have our voice, because we have a lot more presence in the state than we used to have. It's amazing the number of people I talk to that, from all over the country that they've heard of Wenatchee, Washington. And people are coming here from, all over, as we noted tonight. But I think it's really something that we as a council need to just kind of say, these are things that are really important to us, and work through that. And it also lends a lot more power, if you will, to the lobbying process that AWC does for us in Olympia to have literally a formal legislative agenda to present from the city of Wenatchee. So just kind of be thinking about that. AWC already has their agenda out, and I don't know if it's been formally adopted, but it's out. And it's not that we have to come up with a whole new set of things, but to endorse, the things that they have. But there may be very specific things.
Short session this year?
Yeah. Short session.
Okay.
So anyway, just kind of heads up, and on the 17th, I don't know how much did you set aside, Allison? 10, 15?
20 minutes.
20 minutes, okay. So we can just kind of roll some things around. Perfect. And I think it'd also be it would be helpful then to get those things out in front of the community, get some press time and those kinds of things on the radio and in the press. So people know that these are issues that are important to this community.
Yep.
So that's it. Thanks.
All right. Anything else?
So I sent out the email about the council training,
Yes.
December 4th or 11th.
So I responded back to you.
You did, and
Okay.
Jim did, and Mark did.
Okay.
So for the other still sitting council members,
Right.
we would join our newly elected council members and have our roles and responsibilities training with Skip Hauser. Thank you for the recommendation, Jim.
Yeah, that'll be great. So
Skip does a good job of that kind of stuff. He does a lot of it.
I just need to let him know which one way or the other. So
Okay.
if the other council members could get back to me, that would be great.
perfect. All right. Being no further business, we're adjourned.